to LOA Today. I'm Walt Peason. I've been doing this podcast since September of 2012, and boy, are my lips tired. This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. And we're very hopeful that Neo Positivity is going to be joining us a little bit later here on the show. We know he wanted to be here. It's just a question of whether he can join us. He's apparently in a place where Wi-Fi is a little hard to come by, but we're going to give him a chance to kind of pull that together. Also, Dan and Alex will be back next week at this time. They decided, since we're going to have so many people here, they figured, well, there'll be too many people on stage, so we'll just kind of limit it this week because we got a special guest brought to us by Neo. This is Donna Ferguson from Unique Vibrations, the Unique Vibrations Coaching. I don't even know what you call it. Is it just Unique Vibrations Coaching? I don't know if there's a more formal name than that, but
no, I call it many different things. Walt.
Okay.
Depends what the purpose of where we're at. But Unique Vibrations Coaching Collaborative.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, many things.
So anyway, thank you. Welcome to the program. We're glad that you were able to take the time to join us today. Thank
you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And, I as you know, we love this kind of show because it just brings so much out, whatever drops in. So I'm looking forward to see what happens today.
So am I. That's the way it is every show. I'm always looking forward to see what happens. Even if I know what's going to happen, I still look forward to it because I don't know what's going to happen all the time.
That's it. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. So anyway, you got to give us a little bit of a background, a little bit of an overview of who Donna is and what Unique Vibrations is and how that all came together. So give us the potted biography, as they say.
Sure. So Unique Vibrations actually was a very conscious decision after running a previous business, coaching business. I wanted to rebrand, but I wanted to be really conscious because I was really stepping into the Unique Vibration side of things. So, so hence the name. And, everything was very conscious. Every decision I made around naming the business, the colors of the business, which are purple, gold, and white. So purple being a very spiritual color. And then bringing together exactly what that is. And of course, there's been so much growth during the time that Unique Vibrations has been here. So, I'm always changing things up, always tweaking websites, always redeveloping, reinventing, whatever it is that we need to reinvent to be in the space that we're in. And I guess I came to the line of coaching because my background, when I was 21 and we were just talking off camera, I went through a marriage of domestic violence, and I came away from that knowing that there was more to my life, that I know we choose the steps that we take. We were just saying, the steps that I chose to take that led me to that relationship. We all have choices in life, and regardless of whether people think they choose that journey or not, or that path, it's definitely the choices we make that put us there. So I look back at that now going, I'm so grateful for that because it's turned me into being able to do what I do. It's given me the lessons. It's provided me with a lot of information and knowledge because I went on a journey of learning and education after that. But didn't realize I needed to do the internal healing. Hey, we all forget about that side of things. It was just, oh no, I'm done with that. I didn't talk about it for 40 years.
Oh my.
I didn't openly. I talked about it with people who would bring domestic violence up because they'd been through it in a conversation.
Which is safer.
I didn't. Yeah, I never openly talked about it for about 43 years.
Wow. Yeah.
So when I did, interestingly enough, when I first openly spoke about it was on a global live stream, keynote speaking.
Well, you don't mess around, do you? I mean, you just go right from quiet to, okay, world, here we are.
Well, that's my biggest story I've got. I might as well go with that. And I guess, there was still a lot of work for me to do. And as you know, what we work on ourselves daily.
Oh yeah.
We don't stop there. So, that work I continue to do every single day. I mean, I was just reading some I ams that I've got working for me at the moment. I write my goals in a affirmation structure. I listen to my meditations. We all work on ourselves every day, because if we don't, we stop growing. So how can we help our clients? If we get to a certain level and stop learning, then we can't help them anymore. So, and plus it gets those creative juices going, which I love.
Oh yeah, that's the good stuff. That's where what we call your daily dose of happy comes from, because when you're doing the creative stuff, you're in your high vibe place. That's a really good place to be in. No doubt. By the way, I got to tell you something. Alex Standy, who's one of the two co-hosts, she and Dan Magana normally do the Thursday shows with me, and Alex's color is purple. So she would be absolutely over the moon over the fact that purple, gold, and white are your color. She would just like love that one.
Oh, Alex, you and I need to connect, I think. Have a conversation for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff there. I also loved how you were talking about how important it is to keep doing that internal work. I mean, we talk about that a lot, but you're right. It's the first thing that we skip, isn't it? Like, well, I don't have to work on myself. I mean, all I have to do is, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. There's nothing else to be done, and if it doesn't show up, well, that just means I'm broken.
And look, for a very long time, I didn't believe I needed to keep working on myself. But like I said, I was done. It was like, oh, yes, that's happened, that's gone. But, suppression of expression creates physical forms of disease in our body, like anxiety, which then turn into depression, which turn into, interestingly enough, I know a lady who does a lot of, I forget the actual work that she did where she was educated. But I think I've got a feeling she's got a nursing background as well. And she was caring for her brother, and she literally watched him fall apart with cancer, because she said all that he was suppressing over the years of growing up, and their home life as children, because of their culture, he suppressed a lot of stuff. She said, I literally watched him eat away from the inside out. And so in some cases it can develop into things like cancer.
Sure.
Which was, I've heard that many times before. For years I've heard that from mentors and people who really study the signs of suppression and what happens with our feelings and emotions when we do that. So yeah, 100%. It was like a load off my shoulder, and I literally, when it was finished and I went and sat down, I was so emotional that I'd shared that journey, because it was 40 years of suppressing what I hadn't said.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got to keep healing. You've just got to keep doing the work. Otherwise, there's always something that comes up. Always something that's like, where's that coming from? Look at it. It's simple for us now, because we do practice that every day. But for people who don't understand it and don't know how to do that, sometimes need guidance.
Sure. Yeah. Great thing to do. A couple of people in the live stream. First of all, Leslie's been posting. Leslie is one of our more devoted followers these days, and also a recent graduate of the Taya boot camp. I don't know if you know what Taya is. It's David Strickle's program. And she was noting also that gold and white is part of the Taya wealth pyramid, which is true. So yeah,
I just saw that comment actually. Yeah.
Right. And then Anne-Marie is in there too. Hello, Anne-Marie. I just saw Anne-Marie a little while ago. We were doing a Power of 8 group meeting. So good to see you too. I love Leslie's phrase too, the multidimensional toolkit. That's a good phrase. That's really good.
Yeah.
Because that's really what we're developing here on a day-to-day basis, with all the different things that we learn to do, all the practices. The multidimensional toolkit.
Yeah. And I think that's really important that we look for new ways, because as leaders, it's important for us to understand all facets.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, understand, to have some knowledge of, because we're coming in contact with these people all the time. So for us to actually say, yes, I am aware of that, or I know a little bit about that, we can have that conversation with them with a better understanding, I think, as well. So, yes, we don't need to know everything. We
But
don't
we're
need to
constantly
know.
learning. I mean, that's what we do. We're learning all the time. That's
Yeah,
part of what it
exactly.
is to be alive.
Yeah, but it's good to. Ah, hello,
Yes,
Neo's just
Neil.
popped in.
We're looking forward to having you
He's
part of the
there in
conversation,
spirit.
Neil. Oh my goodness.
Oh dear. It just popped up. I was like, oh, there he is. You two are great. So is Neo. He's amazing. Like,
He is.
I'm
He's a
so
fabulous.
grateful to him.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, especially since, well, for me, ever since he joined the podcast, he does Fridays with me and Debbie G, and
Mm,
the he brings a layer of, I don't even know how to describe it. Real spirit is the best I can say. It's the best way I can describe it, because he
mm,
is a very spiritual being, but he's very real, very down to earth. I mean, there's no, it's not airy fairy with him, and yet your average person who learns about what it is he does and thinks and focuses on could easily say, "Oh, that's all the airy fairy, woo woo stuff." But with him, it isn't.
no.
He is just like hardcore real in the way that he does it. So
Mm,
yeah,
mm.
Neil says, I'm sorry I couldn't be there today. We're sorry you can't be here in the flesh too, because I know you'd have amazing things to contribute to the conversation. But that's right. We'll do it again sometime when you can
Yeah,
get
absolutely.
the Wi-Fi.
Absolutely. As long as you're enjoying yourself, Neo, wherever you are, I think that's important.
Very true. Very
So
true.
yeah, yeah, and you're right, Walt. He does bring a different dynamic to the group. I myself like to keep things simple, and so I speak English when I speak to people as well. I don't use a lot of the terminology because I feel like there's such a wide audience out there that you want to, whoever's listening, you want them to understand what you're talking about and not do all the woo woo stuff. Like, there's a time and a place for that. I think when you're surrounded by those people, you can speak that language. But I really feel that it's important for us to communicate the most simplest way for many to understand, what we're saying, instead of going into, it's when you go into, if you walked into a laboratory and they started talking all this scientific
Hmm.
facts and figures, it'd be like, now hang on a second, just let's slow that down and bring it back to English.
That's right. Yes.
Because
Sorry, I
because
don't
we
speak squiggle.
no, and you know what, the average person doesn't understand that. So
Right.
if people are just starting out on their spiritual journey, they want to understand what you're talking about. Otherwise, they're going to go, oh, that meant,
Mhm.
I don't get that. I'm just like, and they'll hear it again and again and again. And it's like, oh, now I finally get it, but it might be 10 years down the track, um, which when they can speak the language. And that's why they say, sometimes when you're talking to people, you can be sharing information and somebody will finally go, oh my gosh, I get it. Thank you for speaking in that way,
Right.
that resonated with me. And with my clients, I'm the same. Sometimes people will say, I don't get that. I'm not sure what you mean. So I'll say it another way, and they'll say, hang on, I just still don't, because we've got audio, kinesthetic, and, all these different ways of learning, that sometimes I have to do it all 3 or 4 ways for people to actually go, oh, now I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, that's part of what being
So,
a coach is, isn't it? I mean, it's learning how to speak the language of your client.
yeah,
'Cause everybody has their
100%.
own internal and external language that they use. And I
Mm.
mean, most of us use English, but nevertheless, English can be different things for different
Oh,
people, right?
absolutely, it can. Yeah.
So,
Yes.
how do you speak English, or whatever language it is that you speak? How do you speak it? What
Yeah.
words do you use? What thoughts do you use? Of course, thoughts are a big part of the whole thing. What's your
Oh,
emotional
thoughts.
range? What
That's
what part of
Neo. Come
are
on
you
in.
in? Yeah. Yeah. Thoughts become
Yeah,
things.
things, and
Absolutely.
so they do, don't they?
They certainly do.
Um, I was talking to somebody the other day who it was really interesting because they were not in a good place. They've got some stuff going on, and he was putting across that he was okay, but then something would come up in his language, and I would say, interesting, and he'd say, yes, I've read this book, I think it was called The Power of the Mind,
Mhm.
or Power of the Mind. Can't even think who the author is now off the top of my head. But, when he was saying that, and I was saying there's so much more to you that I can see, feel, and know. It's just a matter of managing the little things that keep cropping up for you, because eventually they become big things or reality. So
That's part of it.
let's have a look at that.
It's interesting
Um,
too how often stuff like that it can seem obvious from outside, and inside it doesn't seem obvious at all. I mean,
mm, mm,
I was telling you we were doing this Power of Eight thing offline before the show
yes,
today, and having a great time doing it. Really, really cool stuff. And I won't go into the details because that's personal to that particular group. But one
yeah,
of the things that we were kind of generically talking about was how we as human beings are able to say ask each other a question like, do you have any traumas in your life? And the other person will say, "Oh no, there's no traumas." And then you find out that they're alcoholic and that they just recently were in a traffic accident, and oh, by the way, they were beaten up by their spouse, and like no traumas, no traumas at all.
no, no, and, and I can relate to that because I didn't have any trauma in my life 40 years down the track.
Hmm.
Well, I didn't think so. It was all down inside.
Yeah,
So that, and interestingly enough, when you start bringing that trauma up and releasing it, I've had stuff come up. I was like, holy, what? Like, what is that?
right.
I didn't even know. Like, you were really young when it happened. I was like,
Mm.
I didn't even remember that. Like, that was so deep that I had totally forgotten that even occurred or that even existed. Whatever it is, and it's like, oh, I need to do some more work on this stuff, because it's literally like the onion. You're unraveling those layers, and every time you release something, there'll be something else that comes up, whether you think there is or not. It'll be a thought, it'll be an image, because we recall so much in images, and it'll be like, oh, what is that? Like, what is that image? And then you'll start thinking about it, and then the recollection comes, the
Hmm.
event comes, the experience comes, the thought comes, the whatever it was that happened will come through, and then it will, then you've got to work on that.
It's an unraveling process, really. It's a process
And
of
it's
pulling on a thread and then seeing how much thread comes out and where the thread is coming,
oh,
right?
absolutely. I was watching something the other night, and this lady knitted a swimming costume, and I think she was in England. And I thought, this will be interesting, when she got up to go swimming, right? And so, and yes, it happened. She went to come in, and there's all these threads,
Oh no!
and it didn't stop. The whole thing fell apart.
Oh no!
So that's literally what you can bear all.
Yeah, right.
You literally can bear all. And that's what we have to do when we're going through the healing process. We have to bear all and be totally honest with ourselves, because at the end of the day, if you're not, you're only lying to yourself, or you're only making something else
Hmm.
to yourself. you know Other
And
people
it's a
don't really
process
care
too.
what the truth.
It's a process, isn't it? Because it's not like It's not like you expect to unravel the whole yarn all at once. You do it in stages. You do it in pieces.
Mm, mm,
Partly
mm.
because that's how we can handle it, because
Yeah,
we can only handle a certain amount at a certain, period of time, and partly
yeah,
because that's just the way it comes out. I mean, very, very rarely does the whole ball of yarn come, rolling out all at once. That's a
yeah.
rare event, right?
Absolutely, very rare, very rare. And I'm just reading Leslie's comment here. I saw that on the news last night
Mm,
in the snippet that I watched. I didn't realize she was an Aussie, and she's down there in Tasmania. And yes, a horrific, horrific story that they were talking about last night. So
she's
deepest
asking for
condolences to you, Leslie, because it's affected so many people down there.
she's asking everybody to send love
Tasmania's
that way too.
Yeah, and Tasmania's had their fair share of tragedy over the years.
Mm,
So this is just something else.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and no matter what the situation is, and obviously that's a pretty traumatic situation, but no matter what it is, what I like to remember is even the most traumatic situations lead to rebirth of some kind.
Oh, of course, it does. Very hard to see that when
When
you're
you're in the middle of
in
it,
that
oh, absolutely.
moment.
Yeah, you can't see
Yeah.
it.
No. So
But later on, I mean, especially when I'm not directly involved in it, I like to try to kind of fast forward a little bit. Where can it get to that's in a happier place, a
mm,
higher vibration place of healing, a place of love, place of joy? Because ultimately, I know that I, without having to do anything, just by focusing my attention on those high vibrational spaces when thinking about somebody who's gone through some tough stuff, that energy is getting to them. I don't
yeah.
necessarily know how it's getting to them, but
Mm,
I've learned it actually does get to them. Really. I mean,
yeah.
not
Yeah.
just making it up, like it really actually goes there. So
Yeah.
that's why I try
Yeah.
to
It
do that.
does.
Yeah.
It does, and some very occasionally you'll see it when something tragic has occurred, and the parents. I'm thinking of a specific event in Victoria a few years ago where children were killed as they were walking down the street, and the family just straight away, held no anger towards the person. You know, they lost nearly their whole family. I think they had four children and two cousins were there, and they lost three of their children and one of the cousins. So, it was a big portion of their family, and
Right.
they just continued to hold no anger. And, you know, it was one of, they just say it was one of those things that happened, and, you know, you can't change it. It's like that's in the moment that this happened. I personally don't know if I could have a conversation like that in the moment.
Oh,
Um,
it's a testament to them of just
oh,
what kind of people they are,
100%. Yeah,
right?
100%. And that's what I mean. Like, very few people are capable of being able to hold that space
Mm.
in that moment. So, yeah, most people, majority of people, I would say 99.9% of people actually need time to heal through that
Yeah.
and go through the grieving process. And anger's part of that usually.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
it is a great testament to who those parents were. But
Well,
it's
actually, what
just,
you just named, though, that was an interesting thing because, yes, there is a grieving process. There are steps to it. Interestingly enough, I've learned through direct experience, it is possible to kind of short circuit the process through love, through the power of
mm,
love. And
absolutely.
I can give you a couple of examples from my own life or from my wife's life, actually. Um, about let's see, when was it? I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago. Her stepmother passed, and it was one of those interesting relationships because when her stepmother first came into her life, they were at loggerheads with each other for a long time. But that relationship
Mm,
completely flipped around, so that by the time Ruth passed, they were in a really good place with each other. But after she passed, Louise was kind of feeling um, the loss of it in the sense that she used to call her on the phone every Wednesday, and then she couldn't make the
Yeah.
Wednesday calls anymore. And when that realization really hit home, I mean, she broke down, you know, she was in tears, all that kind of thing. And I'm there in the room and I'm thinking, okay, what can I do to help her? And I didn't know what to do, which is kind of
Mm.
odd because she's a psychotherapist. You would have thought I would have picked things up by now, but no, I had still no idea what to do. So I just went with the first thing that came to my mind. I mean, I didn't have any reasoning to it, no thought process. I just went over, I sat in front of her on the floor, took her hands in my hands. So I'm like on the floor, my hands are on her knees. And I said to her, tell me what you love about Ruth. It was the only thing I
Mm.
could think of to say.
Yeah.
And her whole face in about a 10-second span shifted from grief to light coming on to thinking about
Mm.
it. And then she starts talking about it. And after about 2 or 3 minutes, she said, you just basically short circuited the entire 5-step grief process. Congratulations. I said, no, you did it. I just gave this thing to
I just facilitated it. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I got another example, another opportunity to do the same thing with her sister's husband when he passed a few years back.
Mm.
We went to visit them and you know, went through the funeral and all that kind of stuff. And then we're finally past, and this is like a full Catholic kind of situation. So there was
Okay.
the full wake, the full funeral. There was all that stuff, which personally I find to be overwhelming. But nevertheless, we got through all that. We finally get to the part where, okay, we can have something to eat. You know, the family are all together in this one place and everything's kind of decompressing. And I found myself sitting next to Louise's sister. And I hadn't had much of a chance to even interact with her. She was pretty much wiped out from the whole thing, quite understandably.
Yeah.
And I thought about what had happened with Louise. So I figured I'll try it again, see what happens. As luck would have it, I barely knew Joe, her late husband. Really, the only time I ever met him was on our wedding day, where he was the MC, by the way. And that was the only time I ever got a chance to even talk with him. That's just the
Wow.
way it worked out. So I
Mm.
pointed out to her, I didn't really know him. And I reminded her that was about the only time I ever saw him. What was he like?
Yeah.
And it was the same thing. Her
The
face lit up,
shift.
the whole thing
Mm.
shifted over. She just immediately fell into the mode of love. And she started telling
Mm.
me about him, about how he made her laugh and how they met and all these things that happened. I mean, it's like this whole cavalcade of stuff came pouring out of her. And when she was done, you
Yeah.
could tell she was like 5 pounds lighter. And all I did was focus on love.
It's interesting how you literally see that shift in people's faces
Yeah.
as well, isn't it? Like, regardless of what it is that is going on, when you can speak to them, I mean, speak to them, and they just really get it, or change, or shift, or transform, or whatever word you want to use for that. It's like they stand taller,
Right?
they walk straighter,
Yeah. The glow
the
comes back.
lines the lines disappear from their
Yep.
face like
Exactly.
instantaneously, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so fast. That's the part that's really mind-boggling to me, how quick it is.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're like a moment, and then all of a sudden there's this huge emotional shift. And I mean, you know, losing a spouse, that's pretty severe. And to have
Oh,
that happen in the midst of
absolutely.
that, like, whoa,
Yeah.
oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah. That's it. My mum, well, I lost my dad this year, and I talk to my mum very regularly. That we're not in the same place. She's a
Mm,
number of hours away, and it's interesting because I listen to her talk, and whenever there's a moment, we just lift through the laughter, or a saying that he would say, and you can feel it on the phone. She just picks herself up,
mhm.
and it's, I don't know if my sisters can do that with her, um, or if it's just something that her and I have a different bond, where we're able to, you know, connect on a different level. I guess we all have our bond to a certain extent, and
Sure.
that differs between siblings. But it's just interesting that she can just lift, and you can feel it lift.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can even hear it, from she knows it's me that's calling. Obviously, the number comes up, and she's like a whole different person. Like, you can just feel the energy that. And I go, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yes, I'm good." Like, but what were you doing when I called? And then it'll go into the story. But she's like, she lifts,
Mhm.
and it's such a nice feeling to be able to help her through that. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Well, you must
yeah.
get that feeling a lot because you're a coach. You work with clients. Your goal is to help people get into that space so that they can do their
Oh
healing
yeah.
and get the kinds of results they're looking for in their lives. So you probably experience that to some degree of regularity, I would think.
Oh, absolutely. And to see that, just that's what I mean. You see them, they suddenly sit taller, they stand taller, they walk taller, they're speaking a different language all of a sudden. There's a different
Uh-oh,
sound and tone in their voice. And you know um,
what happened
you get
here?
some wonderful, wonderful
This me?
testimonials from clients, don't we? And it's just like, when
I
you
don't know if
read
anybody can
back
see this
what.
or not. I'm not sure if she froze or I froze. I had an incident yesterday where my internet kicked out, and I'm hoping that didn't
Oh,
happen again. So I'm going to keep
um,
talking just in case I am on.
yeah, I can hear you, but you are frozen.
If I
So
have a good signal here.
um,
I think it was just Donna getting knocked offline here.
no,
Well,
no.
all right. While we're waiting for her to reconnect, yeah, it looks like she's going to do a reconnection here. There. Are we back again? I can see you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Ah, I hear you now. There we go. Okay.
Oh, I've got a very still image on the screen though, Walt, for you.
So one of us froze up. I'm not sure which one, but that's all right.
Mm,
We're back. That's the main thing.
that's it. Hello,
It could be
everyone.
me because yesterday it could be at my end because yesterday in the middle of the show I had two co-hosts yesterday, and I got completely knocked off the internet, and I didn't have a power outage or anything. I'm not really sure what happened, to be honest, but
Yeah, wow.
it cleared. We're back again. So I don't know. Maybe they're doing repairs in the area. I don't know, but
Oh, yes, that could be the case
it's always
too.
possible. Yeah.
Mm.
But anyway, we were talking about
So,
that feeling of what happens when you are able to help somebody get that higher vibe feeling.
yeah, and we have the privilege of being able to read um, experiences that we've given our clients. And when you read that, it sometimes can be very overwhelming for us that when they put it in words, when they've taken their time to actually put it in words, sometimes it can be. I know there was a shift with this client. I know that we changed their life, but wow, we changed it to that extent.
Yeah, it's
You know,
exciting, isn't it?
it is so exciting, and I feel really blessed that we have the ability to do that.
Mm, yeah,
You know, I think we're really blessed that we have the ability to facilitate change in people, because of what we know and what we've been through. But also, I think, um, people are connecting with who we are because something in us resonates with them.
right.
There's an energy exchange because everything's energy, right? It doesn't matter what
Sure.
it is.
Oh yeah.
So we have this energy exchange, and I've just done a massive change in what I'm doing, and I've got to thank Neo for that. I have to thank Neo for that because a couple of
Okay.
weeks ago, when we were having a conversation, something came up, and I'm about to make a big announcement, actually, which I love,
Ooh.
uh, on what
Should I
I'm
start a drum
doing.
roll? I can do like a drum and a trap in the background if you like.
um, oh, that was quite loud. So yes, I am changing up something that I'm doing with my coaching because I really want to take it more down the line of law of attraction.
Ah,
Even though a lot of the coaching that I do is structured around that, I want it to be more visible.
uh-huh.
And so yeah, I'm doing a bit of a pre-launch at the moment on social media about law of attraction, and then in January I'm going to literally be launching a new challenge that I'm going to be doing, a 21-day challenge. So
Ooh.
I'm really excited about that. And then next year as well, later, maybe about mid-year, maybe May. I've looked at my dates and it's going to be around May. I will be holding a summit for the Law of Attraction
Whoa.
summit, yay, in Australia. So, of course, I'm looking for great speakers, great people who are already on that path, and I guess the announcement's out now, the secret's
All
out.
right. Very good.
So that's, yeah, so I'm very excited about that as well. So it will be bringing all that together, talking to people. I've got some big names I'm writing up in my scripting at the moment as well. So
Cool.
yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. But yes, I'll be reconnecting with everybody and just going, hey guys, is this something you're interested in?
Mm-hmm.
I'd love you to be part of it. And Walt, I'd love for you to be part of that as well.
Oh, thank you.
And yeah, I can't wait actually to get that underway. But I'll probably work on that more over the Christmas New Year break, because I'll
Perfect.
focus on that specifically while I'm still having some downtime.
Downtime? What's that? No, actually, I do know what
Yeah.
that
Yeah, so I'm going to take about 10 days off, and I'm literally now I've got this, summit that I want to bring together with speakers and start reaching out to people. So yeah, I've got my list. I know who I want. Like I said, there's some big names in there as well, so I'm looking forward to that.
Exciting. Oh my goodness. Yeah,
I
thank you for
know.
making the announcement here. We feel privileged.
Yay. So thank you, Neo, for putting that idea in my mind. Um,
Absolutely. I love that.
yeah, keep me posted. Yes, we will, Leslie.
Yeah,
Definitely think we should connect too, being Aussie gals.
absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about that.
Hmm.
So, I wanted to go back a little bit, if you don't mind, because
Sure,
early
yeah.
on, well, before the show, and then also after we got started, I asked you a little bit about the background, and you told us about how you were in an abusive relationship, and
Hmm.
I don't remember if this part you said off camera or on camera, but you made some reference to how you basically took ownership of it, and I really want to
Mm.
hone in on that because that's a big deal. That's a very, very
Oh,
big
it
deal.
is.
I mean, we live in
Yeah.
a culture, right, where victimhood is a huge part of that culture, and you refuse to think of yourself as a victim. And
Oh,
first of all, I
I'm
applaud
not.
you for that. I totally applaud you for that. And secondly, I wanted you to just talk about how you got to that place.
Mm. Yeah, it probably took me a lot longer than I would have wanted it to, because
Of course, we want it to
first,
happen instantly.
yeah, well, first of all, I was an adventurous type child. So, I was always doing things, getting in trouble. The creativity was coming out at a very young age. And,
Cool.
I found I was always getting in trouble for, not being home on time, or going to places, or ending up in places that maybe I shouldn't have been. Just purely because I wanted to know, what's this? Where am I going? What would happen if? And they're great questions to ask today. What would happen if I
Sure.
do, or if I don't? And so, I went through high school, and high school didn't really interest me that much. I was more interested in life and what was going on outside the four walls of a schoolroom.
You and a few million other
So,
people, I
yeah.
think.
And, we're told to stop, daydreaming, and stop looking out the window, and pay attention, and did you listen to me? And then we get a report card that says easily distracted, or, you never, or the teachers saying things like, oh, she's never going to do any better than this. And we carry that report card syndrome through our life, right? Bob Proctor talks about this heavily. And, for me, it's like, well, suddenly we get to understanding law of attraction and universe and, all that goes on around us and being aware. And we're told to suddenly start using our imagination again. I'm getting a bit off track, I think, too. So, these things happen. But anyway, so as a teenager,
By the way, it's
I
part of the
was.
course around here. Things go off traffic all the time. I mean, every tangent actually leads to the next road, so we're good.
Yeah, so we can come back to that.
That's right.
So as a teenager, I was very adventurous. I wanted to go. Well, I was probably past the adventurous stage and really wanted to get on with life and meet boys and I was going to the pub at 16 and instead of 18 here in Australia, much to my parents' disgust. And
I'm sure.
I was probably not meeting the best kind of people, but I was hanging around a group of people. And all of this was my choice. I made these choices. And of course, then I met this person that I thought, oh, he's really different, bad boy sort of look. And he was definitely a bad boy. And it led me to that relationship. And so they were choices I made. I probably did it partly because I wanted to experience more than the safety of being around people that our parents thought were good for us. Get the safe job, have the good relationships, all of these things. So anyway, I ended up with this person, and it moved quite quickly. And anybody who goes through domestic violence will know in hindsight that the relationship moves very quickly towards controlling and taking you away from all your friends and family. And of course this occurred. So a month, 28 days after our wedding, I woke up in the middle of the night just shocked, startled, didn't know what was going on, didn't know what was happening. And then as I, after a few minutes of trying to get my bearings and know what was going on, I began to lay back down as the fist came across, and I thought that's what woke me up, which went on all night. I was in and out of consciousness. I didn't know if I was going to live or die.
Yeah.
And that was that particular night, which was the beginning of it all. And it was less than a month after we got married, and it was 2 days before Christmas. So, I couldn't go home. I didn't want to spoil everyone's Christmas because I was considerate against, what would happen if I turned up. I didn't recognize myself in the mirror, so how would my parents know who was knocking on the door?
Sure, yeah.
So, but these are steps that I chose to take to put me in that situation. When I left that marriage with my daughter, I left when I went to a job interview, and this was my first sign of being guided, I suppose. And I just came down the stairs and there was no thought. Like, I had no thought whatsoever. Somehow I went in the opposite direction, jumped in a taxi, went to my mum's work, didn't even have $1 in my pocket to pay for the taxi, so I had to borrow that off mum when I got there. So, the whole story of what domestic violence is about. But then what happened was, I knew there was more. I wanted more in my life, and I knew I wanted to help other women, but of course it wasn't talked about. It was a very private affair. So the more I tried to connect and work that out, the less I could do it. But I believe that comes from energy, and the energy that I hadn't done the healing, I hadn't done the work, but it took me probably 20 years to literally get on the path of being in a network of people who were motivational speakers or inspiring speakers or keynote speakers that had been through some sort of experience and shared their journey. And for me, that was the beginning of it. And, that's when I really started to do the healing, I guess.
Sure.
but still not to the extent where I knew I was healed. It wasn't until I really came across the human behavior and paradigm shifts that Bob teaches that I really understood. And this is
Mm-hmm.
what I was saying before, you know, it's about the language. You can talk to many people, but if it doesn't resonate, then there's not a lot you can do. We hear things many times over for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
The first time is, you know, if we hear it twice, we hear it the first time because we need to hear it, and the second time because we haven't applied it or shared it, and then we consistently hear it because there's something we're resisting against in that message.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, for me, then when I began that journey, I connected with some amazing people and began that my true journey probably at 45 years
Mm-hmm.
old.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So many years after I went through domestic violence. But that was when I started to really get it. That was when I knew there was something different. I think that was about the time that The Secret came out, Rhonda Byrne,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and we all sat there going, oh, yes, I want this. It's all going out to the universe. But I've since become very aware that the law of attraction is a secondary law, not a primary law. It's the law of vibration that actually is the primary law, which,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we all connect with, because it's through that vibrational energy of where we need to sit and
Yeah, law of
develop.
attraction is basically the effect of what happens when you have a law of vibration. It's what comes out
Yeah,
of it, so to speak.
yeah. And I know these days, like instantaneously, I can sit in something and within a couple of hours with some things, it's here.
Mm-hmm.
And I get fascinated by that. Sometimes I really try and test it, you know.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, and have fun with it. Like people think it's
Absolutely.
hard work, but it's not hard work.
You
And
must have
so I
read
really,
you must have read the Pam Grout books, E Squared and E Cubed, the experiment books.
no, no,
Oh,
I
you
haven't.
gotta check those out. You'll love them. Each
Yeah,
book,
what was,
E Squared and E Cubed, are the two books by Pam Grout. And each
ah,
one is a collection of 10 very simple experiments to do to basically validate for yourself how the law of attraction works and that it works. And they're brilliant experiments. We actually did a few of them here on the show last spring. We were just talking about this
wow.
offline actually earlier today. But Cindy Chavez and Monique Scott and I did a few of them. And on one of them, I don't remember which experiment it was, but you were supposed to imagine something you wanted to happen within 48 hours. And interestingly enough, the two of them both decided they wanted to hear from somebody they hadn't heard from in over 10
Mm,
years, but
mm,
they wanted to happen within the 48-hour period. For me, it was a different thing. I wanted to have something happen with my financial life, and that also became a very interesting story. But I'll leave that one aside for a moment, because the really fascinating thing for me is both of them got their wish. Both of them got contacted by somebody they hadn't heard from in many, many years. And it led Monique to be manifested right off of the show. She ended up changing careers, leaving the show, and going off. So an experiment done here on the show took her off the show.
oh wow, isn't that
I love
incredible?
that.
And that, yeah, yeah, me
By the
too.
way,
And
for Monique Scott fans, she is going to be back for at least a couple of weeks starting next Tuesday. So you'll be able to tune in and check her out for at least
yes,
Tuesdays. So that's going to be really cool. But yeah, just
absolutely, that's
amazing. But
amazing.
check out those
Oh,
books. They're really, really good. Really, really fun.
yes, I will definitely. So, you know, I think, and that's the important thing that people forget. They forget that they can have fun with this work. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when we're sharing with our clients, you know, to do things, and there's always the clients that, you know, think, oh, I don't want to do the homework, or not the homework, because it's not homework, it's really fun.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't want to put any time and effort in and expect the same results. And you know, some of them just aren't ready to change, to see how they can change their life. And there's
I think
others that,
at some level, for somebody like that, and I know because I've been in that space, I think there's something that we basically don't make a connection, and the connection is the
yeah,
energy we get out is directly proportional to the energy we put in. So if we aren't going to put the
yeah,
energy in, we're not going to get the energy out. But we kind of skip that part, right?
yes, yes. And we feel like it's going to happen anyway. I don't have to, I don't have to do the
Yes.
work. It's going to happen. But what else aren't they doing their work in? What else are they not prioritizing in their life? Because really, to live a life of choice is a priority. It's your birthright.
Yes.
You deserve it. And yes, there's some things that you have to do, but you can use as much energy to live in a space of positivity as it can take to live in lack and scarcity.
It's a lot easier too.
And, so no more energy takes the same. So
Hmm.
why would you not want to lift yourself into a space of being positive and living a life of choice and freedom and financial success and abundance and all of the things, like literally walk outside and look at the abundance around you.
Hmm.
That costs nothing, takes
Hmm.
no energy because you're walking outside anyway. But
Right?
take note,
Noticing.
really feel that, um, know what it is. Some mornings I just sit and watch the birds dropping in the trees, and they're honeysuckle trees, and I'm pretty sure they're drunk on the pollen by the time I get to see them because they're all over the place. But it's watching how that happens and their behavior. And then I walk down to the jetty and I get to see the fish in the ocean, and the cycle of that from when they disappear, obviously gone to spawn, and then they come back, and there's all the little ones, but there's the next size and then the next size, and then all these fish that have, there's all these different sizes and variations, and then all of a sudden there's nothing, and then all of a sudden there's the small,
Hmm.
very tiny fish, and the cycle starts again. And
Right.
it's watching that and breathing that in, that's abundance.
It's appreciation too. That's what you just described was a cycle of appreciation because you appreciated every step along
Absolutely.
that route.
Yes. And the gratitude, like gratitude, forgiveness, they're two of the first steps to
Mm.
creating law of attraction and manifesting what you want in life. And that's the first 2 days of my 21-day challenge.
Oh, okay. We have a little
So
clue, a little foreshadow.
yeah. Are you fishing, Walt? So
Well,
yeah,
it says
they're
there we've
really
been
important.
talking about fish, so I guess I am fishing, really, when you think about it.
There we go. But it's about elevating yourself, through forgiveness and through gratitude, and really. But it's such an interactive challenge. They will literally walk away after 21 days with things they've already manifested
Yeah, that's always
because
fun.
of what I teach them.
Yeah,
And what I show them. And,
that's great.
I also have hypnotherapy behind me. So, I do processes through this as well,
That's
which,
really interesting to me. I know more and more people from, either the hypnotherapy camp or from the LOA camp who are kind of blurring the line. More and more people are combining the 2 together, and here you are, another one who's doing exactly the same thing.
yeah,
And I'm the sense that I get is it's almost like you're amplifying the power of both by combining them together. Am I right about that?
100% right.
Mm.
100%. Yeah, it is a power because you can teach people as much as you can, but when you implement timeline therapy or a process of self belief or process of abundance and prosperity or success or self image, they open up to a whole
Mhm.
new level themselves because they begin to believe in themselves. Just talking to people and giving them tools and techniques and strategies to use and processes to use isn't going to always connect with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Some people need to feel. And that's what I bring in with the hypnosis. We get them to feel.
I would say everybody needs to feel. I know I can say that from
Mm,
personal experience
mm,
because for the longest time, literally in my life, up until probably age 50, I really did not believe, first of all, that I could feel on any situation. I thought there were a lot of
mm.
situations in which there would be no feeling at all. But even more importantly, I thought all feelings were outside of my control. It was literally a knock me over moment when I considered the
Mm,
idea that I could actually choose a feeling and actually pull it off and then get a different result. That just blew me away because that was not what my experience had been. And that's
yeah.
not what I've been taught for years and years and years. I
Mm,
had been taught to be the recipient of whatever the latest instruction was from whoever the latest authority was. And it wasn't up to me. It was not my choice. It was not, and to find that I actually had the power to choose my
yeah.
feeling about I could actually
Mm,
be in a situation that normally calls for tears and I could feel joy or I could feel anger
mm,
or I could feel, excitement or I could feel something else other than what was prescribed for me. That was eye-opening. It was
yeah.
just eye-opening.
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible. And, you know, and again, this comes down to all the different ways that people learn.
Mm.
Some just won't connect to their inner self unless we can take them there. And that's why I implement that into the process as well. So very exciting, very exciting. I'm so looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And, there'll be more law of attraction implemented into my current coaching program as well. So, I'll be working on that more during what the structure of that one is. So I'm
That's
just
great.
very
It sounds
excited
exciting.
for it.
Yeah, it sounds very
it
exciting.
it's like it's like I suddenly found a space to live in,
Right.
and it was literally after my conversation with Neo. I
Mm.
suddenly felt the shift and I was like, this is my space. This is what I'm meant to do. And yes, that will probably change again, as I grow.
Sure. Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but now I'm in this space of joy and happiness and comfort, and not comfort zone. I'm very much out of my comfort zone, but comfort. And you know, this is when I've things are manifesting quicker as
Mhm.
well. So it's like, ooh, this is like, yeah,
Good
I'm
stuff.
really living in spirit.
That's
That's
nice.
where I feel I'm at. Yeah.
Hey, before we run out of time, I got to make sure to put this out there for people who are interested in that 21-day challenge that's coming up starting in
Mhm.
January, or if they just want to reach out about the unique vibrations coaching, how do they
Yeah.
find you?
They can find me on my website, which is www.uniquevibrations.com. They can email me, donna@uniquevibrations.com. I'm on all social medias, so Facebook under my personal name or my business name. Instagram is under, I just had to change my account. I got taken off Insta. I don't know why. Um,
Oh,
I
dear.
just suddenly had no account. It's now, I think, Donna, oh, I can't even tell you off the top of my head. You'll find me, I look like this. um, I think it's Donna Unique Vibrations or a variation of that somewhere, but you will see my picture come up. LinkedIn, of course.
Mhm.
So they
Well, I'll
can
make sure that I include
message
the
me.
uniquevibrations.com here on the in a link on the description here, so anybody listening to this podcast will be able to just go to the description to
Yeah.
find it.
And I do everything online because my purpose in life is to help as many people as I can live a life of choice, step them into their own power, and bring to them whatever it is that they want. And you can only do that by doing many all over the world. So if it's not even for them, if it's somebody they know that they think might be able to use it, send them through. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Neil, thank you very much. If you're still listening, thank you for sending Donna here. This has been wonderful, a great conversation. And Donna,
Loved
thank
it.
you for taking the time to join us. I mean, this has been really very enjoyable. And I mean, as usual, we have our daily dose of happy. We have so much fun doing these, but you just bring that extra spark. And it's great. It's a wonderful thing. So yeah, thank you for making the time to be with us today.
Thank you so much, Walt. Thank you. And thank you to Neo. Yeah, I mean, he's been a great connection for me. And, I'm finding all these new, wonderful, exciting people to join forces with as well. So I'll definitely be in touch about my summit as well, Walt, because I really would love to have you there as well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that very much. And I also appreciate our live streamers, and I especially appreciate our podcast listeners everywhere, because as I like to say so often, without you, I wouldn't have a podcast. Thanks so much. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.